Bully Live Podcast. What is going on, fam? Welcome again to another Monday. We're going to be throwing it down because you already know we're going to be talking about COI. What is COI? Coefficient of inbreeding. That's what it is. We have special guest Jerry James along with our co-hosts Donald Gaines and Mike Green. Right now, they're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We're going to have them in the back. But as soon as we're ready to go, we're going to bring it in. And we're going to break things down real quick. I want to say what's up to Kahiki Sakata. What's up, fans? Speaking on COI, I realize my females have the higher COI than my males. We're going to get into that, man, by all means, bro. What is going on, Adam Fields in Sarata? Jerry James, no longer waiting. He's in the back. We got Maurice Humboldt in the house, Sid 1026. Yeah, patiently, Jerry, says Adam Fields. Big Pryor, what is going on, man? Nothing but love for you and your wife, supporting that business she got going on the best I can, man. Nothing but love for you guys. We got Goliath in the back. We got Teray Thompson Sr. What up, Bully fam? You got it, bro. We got Quiptown Dogos. And we got Exile Bully Oasis. Real quick, Jerry James, if you could hear me in the back and everything is good, give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you in, man. All right, let me bring him in. All right, here we go. Mr. Jerry James, what's going on, man? Nice to meet you, man.
How are you? You too, brother.
I'm doing good, man. I was going to be introduced by Donald Gaines and or Mike Green, but right now they're having a little bit of technical difficulties, so they're in the back. But irregardless, that's not going to stop us from talking about COI and everything else that comes in between. So give me a little background. Let me know where you're located. What's the name of your kennel? We got some pictures here with some of your dogs. Love for you to give us a little bit of insight.
Yeah, right now I'm located northwest Oklahoma, which about 35 miles to the west of Enid, Oklahoma. Kennel name is Dubtown Bullies. Started about, I guess it'd be 4 years ago, come August.
Okay. Wow, that's actually not too bad. So that was right around the COVID time period then.
Yeah, and I didn't even relate what what all was going on. I mean, you kind of look back and you're like, oh, a lot of people were buying dogs and things like that. And I was just like, I had Boston Terriers. And I had lost one and I was down to one dog and I was like, you know what? I want to get a bigger dog. And that's kind of how I ended up with bullies.
Okay.
Purely kind of by accident in a lot of ways, right?
Well, talk to me, man. What was it like in comparison when you compare, say, a Boston Terrier to a bully? Let me move them back. Go ahead, man. Yeah, they're having technical difficulties. I'll bring him in here in a minute.
Oh, I love Boston Terriers. Just, typical terrier attitude, lots of energy, springs in their feet, jumpers and that kind of thing, but super sweet dogs. And bullies, kind of the same thing. I mean, not so much springs in their feet, but just super sweet, very loyal, easy to be around. And that's what attracted me the most to them. But not to mention that they look really cool.
Almost definitely, man. So talk to me about COI, man. Mike Green and Donald Gaines, they think very highly of you. And they were telling me, man, we got to bring in Mr. Jerry James up in here because he's got a lot of information on COI. So break it down for us, man. Let us know what COI is. There's a lot of new breeders watching us. So I don't want to just start jumping into it without giving them a little bit of a prelude as to what it is that we're talking about.
Yeah, well, first of all, we need to question their judgment, right?
Yeah, right.
They think highly of me. But no, seriously. So I got involved in with inbreeding coefficients about 25 years ago
Wow.
when I bred
Okay.
horses. I had a horse farm and happened to have a conversation with the director of the equine program at the University of Vermont, and so that's really kind of where things started for me, and
Okay.
understanding the importance of inbreeding coefficients in your program.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that. Granted, you were working with this with people up in Vermont as far as koi. What were the first, I don't know, the first things that were taught to you about koi in horses that you could say translates into dogs? Or is it one of them things that it translates into all mammals?
Well, it really translates into anything genetics or genetics. I mean, each
Sure.
every species is a little bit different, but we all still have, I mean, genetics are genetics, right? And the thing about the University of Vermont program was that their horses were so consistent in their look, right? I mean, you
Okay.
could pick them out of a crowd, and I think every breeder strives for that consistency,
Most definitely.
you know, uh, in the phenotypical expression of what their animal looks like, put their stamp on it. But then there's also the issue of how do I do that safely without compromising health of my dogs, right?
This is correct. One thing that people, and we might as well already jump on topic. One thing that people misinterpret sometimes, because I talk a lot about koi and about genetics, and we break it down quite a bit on this channel, on this platform. One thing they fail to realize is, true enough, the higher the koi, the tighter the blood. Tighter the blood is nothing more than breeder talk to say that you're able to push traits. Uh, you're able to push them forward because you have more homozygotic pairs or identical pairs. And you're only
Correct.
going to get identical pairs whenever you actually inbreed, right? And so the
Correct.
koi, say if I have a dog that has a koi of a 10, what it means is that 10% of his genetic makeup is homozygotic or inbred. Okay, it
Correct.
just shows how inbred that dog is. Now, with that being said, especially when you're dealing with a new breed like we are with American Bullies, you want a higher koi at times, because if you have a dog that is showing, say, that American Bully trait, that is what you truly want, and you want to push it forward. A lot of times, what you'll do is you'll have an inbreeding, get that son or daughter, and then you breed to it. Here's the part that I've been trying to kind of let people know. True enough, the higher the koi, the tighter the blood, the more you're going to push forward, but also the higher the possibility of pathological diseases and also just issues overall, whether it's, from allergies to heart issues to kidneys to whatever. What do you have to say about that, Jerry?
Well, so that's exactly correct. And it's, there's never anything wrong with, pushing forward the positive traits. But, when you combine things, it's always the recessive traits that go along with it that are accumulating over time. And then when you get, you increase the likelihood of a recessive trait, then no longer being recessive, right? And then it gets expressed, and then you have a dog that has a genetic issue. And so by the tighter you breed, the higher the inbreeding coefficient, the more likely that is to happen.
This is true. Now let's talk a little bit about dominant and recessive, right? So that people could comprehend, because even though it's very basic once you understand it, if we're just talking about recessive and dominant, and we don't hit up on it, you may miss the point altogether. So essentially, inside of a chromosome, basically you're going to get half from mom, or a gene from mom, and a gene from dad. Okay, we're going to express said genes as this, okay, or this. Okay, so you have a possibility of being either this or this. When you have a recessive gene, what it means is both pairs must either be this or they must both be that in order for that gene to be able to express itself.
Correct.
Okay, so if you have, say, this and this, what it means is your pup is now a carrier of whatever said gene that is, but it's not going to express it because this is not the same, right? So that's the recessive part that Jerry just hit on. When you're dealing with a dominant gene, okay, if this is a dominant gene, he could care less what this is. This could be this, it could be crooked, it could be all the way down, it could be up, it doesn't matter. This, because it's a dominant gene, is going to pretty much dominate and express that said gene, whatever that may be. So I'll give you an example of a dominant gene. Merle. Merle is a dominant gene. Okay. You don't need mom to be Merle. If dad is Merle and he goes into a non-Merle female, so he's Merle and she's a non-Merle female, guess what? You're going to have pups that are going to be Merle. Now, let me give you an example of a recessive gene. A recessive gene would be, say, the tricoloring, the ATAT, right? So dad is tri, but mom is not. Now you have what is called a tri-carrier, meaning this pup has the ability to produce tris whenever it meets the criteria of having two homozygotic or two identical tri genes. So if that tri-carrier pup goes into a tri-carrier female, they run a 25% chance of having full tris. They have 50% chance of having tri-carriers, and they have a 25% chance of no tris whatsoever. So recessive genes, especially when it comes to health, also play a very big part, guys. And that's what Jerry was alluding to. And that is when you start inbreeding, what ends up happening, since we're creating more homozygotic or identical pairs, now these recessive genes, before you did that, they couldn't express, right? They can't show what it is. You can't show your tri. Now, tri is something that we want, right? But say it's a congenital heart issue. It's not going to do anything because the dog is simply a carrier, but it doesn't fully have it. The minute you inbreed, now you're going to increase the homozygotic or identical pairs, and now that pathology is going to show. Yep. And that's why you see, Jerry, talk to me. What pathologies do you see the most with dogs that are inbred or that have a higher COI? What are the things that you normally see with them?
Well, there's one particular trait. I don't see it, but have seen dogs that have tested for it, and one is particularly dangerous, and it's ataxia, right? And so, and
absolutely.
And I mean, if a dog inherits both copies of ataxia, that dog is most likely dead by the time it's 4 or 5 years old. Now, or may not be dead, but no longer able to function and have a quality life. And
can you give us? Sorry to interrupt you. Can you give me a little bit more of a definition of what ataxia is? This way, people can understand exactly what you're hitting on.
Yeah, ataxia is a neurological function, and basically what it is at the mitochondrial level. When cells, I mean, mitochondria is the engine of a cell, right? And as that operates, their waste is created, right?
Correct.
But ataxia prohibits that waste from being eliminated from the cell, and so it continues to build up in the cell. And what happens then is it starts affecting the neuromuscular function of the dog. You'll see a dog that will they'll stumble. They don't have the coordination. They can have seizures similar to epileptic seizures, grand mal type seizures, things like that. So really what it is it's just a thing where they can no longer eliminate waste from the cell, and then it builds up. And really, in a lot of ways, I know it's a little bit different because Alzheimer's more about the buildup of plaques, right?
Right.
But that buildup, right, affects the brain. And, so you have, let's say you have a dog that's a carrier and there's no, so this is kind of a touchy subject, but it's important to understand it. There's no reason that you can't use a carrier in your breeding program, but you have to make sure and test the dog that you're using that carrier with, and then any dogs that have been produced afterwards to know which dogs you may or may not want to retain for your breeding program. The object or the key is to eliminate that defect, if you will, or that recessive trait after one generation in your program, and still retain those attributes that dog brought to your program, right?
Well, sorry to interrupt you. We just had Gaines join us. Guys, can you hear us?
They're always late,
Hey, all right. Yeah, man. Hey, yeah, we're having a conversation here with Jerry, and Jerry's hitting up on ataxia, actually. And one thing I wanted to add to ataxia, Jerry, so people can have an idea, some of the symptoms that you're going to see on a pup, say that is a full-blown, it's not just an ataxia carrier, has full-blown ataxia, meaning it has, homozygotic pairs. You're going to notice them stumbling, having coordination issues. Sometimes you'll think, oh, well, that's such a clumsy pup. And sometimes it can be that the pup is clumsy, especially if you're dealing with these bigger dogs. But if you're seeing that clumsiness still going on at around 8, 10, 12 months, that's reason for concern. Now, as far as I'm concerned, one of the things that is a no deal, in other words, is a deal breaker for me in every which way, is ataxia. I don't want to see it full blown. I don't want to see a carrier. I don't want to see anything to do with anything neurological. Guys, the reason that I am so adamant about neurological issues and in genetics specifically is that a lot of the stuff is being built in the initial mesoderm. Okay, I've spoken about the past about the kink tail is nothing more than an extension of the spine. That's being built in the mesoderm along with the eyes, the heart, and the kidneys. One of the reasons I don't want to deal with any of that is because you could actually exchange a kink tail for a heart pathology, a kidney pathology, a neurological issue. If you have a dog that's got a neurological issue, pretty much it's unbreedable. Quality of life is usually not the best. Jerry just told you, if you have a full-blown dog with ataxia, if they live up to 5, you could pretty much throw a party. And the quality of life is just not there. Jerry, have you ever seen a dog with full-blown ataxia? And if you have, what things were you able to pick up or see?
I've never personally seen one, no.
Okay.
I've only read about the pathology.
Okay, good deal. How about you guys, Gaines, Mike, Donald? Have you guys ever had a pup with ataxia? Have you ever experienced it?
No experience with that.
Never experienced it.
Okay, good deal. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you guys have it, man. And for those of you that are watching, this is one of the main reasons I tell you guys before you buy a pup, even offer it to the breeder. If you really want to know if the breeder's BSing you or he's trying to give you a runaround, tell him straight up, does the pup have embark? He or she doesn't. Okay, great. Tell you what, embark is $100. I'm going to give you $200 on top of what you're asking on the pup if you get the pup embarked. oh no, I'm not interested, this and that. They tell you they're not interested, run the opposite direction, because they already know that one of the parents is carrying something, if not both. And this is the way that they give you the runaround. This is why I cannot begin or finish telling you guys how important it is to get embark testing. Jerry, go ahead, man. Tell me what else you could tell me about COI that you've been able to pick up over time. What happens when you have low COI, when low COI meets high COI? Talk to me when two high COIs meet each other. Give me some of that insight.
Well, so that's kind of a, so when two high COI dogs meet each other,
yes.
Well, it kind of depends. It's kind of going to depend. Are they different bloodlines, right? I mean, obviously, we want them to be from different bloodlines. If we're going to bring two highly inbred dogs together, we want them to be from disparate bloodlines, right?
Correct.
And matter of fact, that's a breeding strategy, just in general, when dealing with a dog with a high inbreeding coefficient. Let's say you're a female, 15-20%, but she's still got a flaw you really want to fix, right? Well, what you want to do is you want to find a male that has an even higher inbreeding coefficient, that has clear health testing, that carries that trait you're trying to improve your chances of correcting that on your female. But two high inbred dogs, I mean, there's going to be a little bit of a battle there. And when the cells join, when they divide, what's inherited, what's not inherited, there's only Mother Nature knows what's actually going to be inherited. And that's the difficult part of breeding. When we talk about inbreeding coefficients, I look at it as I want to know what my inbreeding coefficients are, because that helps me calculate what my risks are. If I'm looking at it from health and phenotype, I'm trying to balance the reward from getting the phenotypes that I want and minimize any potential health issues that I want. For me, there's a sweet spot between, now I'll get off into the science, and science says 5% or below, okay, is what the inbreeding coefficient of dogs should be. Up to 10%. At 10%, they call it what they call the extinction vortex, and that's where you're really flirting with putting yourself in a corner. I will tell you that for me, that sweet spot is between 10 and 20. And here's why.
Okay.
The director at the University of Vermont told me that their horses run around 12 to 14%. Like I said, this was 25 years ago. As a breeder, you're going to have to take a certain element of risk, right, in order to get consistent phenotype among your dogs, especially like you said, in a breed like ours where we're still developing, right?
Yes.
Things that terrier still keeps popping out, right? So we want to get more consistent. So we do have to do calculated line breeding. I don't really advocate for inbreeding whatsoever. But we need to know what our risk is when we go into the breeding phase of making our selections. And as long as we understand what our risk profile is, say maybe the test mating comes out and the inbreeding coefficient for that litter is going to be 30%. Okay.
Right.
But what do both dogs bring to the party? You can have a dog that is 10% and a female that's 10%, but if their bloodlines are similar, you could have a litter at 30, right? Same dog, bring the same dogs together. And those dogs are healthy and the lines are healthy. You stand a pretty good chance of having a litter with no problems, but there is a risk. And then the higher the inbreeding number, the more inbreeding depression risk that you have.
So Jerry, let me challenge you. Let me challenge you on something, because
Sure.
I think you brought up a very good point. And when I say challenge you, I don't mean put you on the spot or anything like that. It's just for us to have a discussion and a conversation on it, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying that 10 to 20 is what you're feeling comfortable with. I want to guess you're talking about American Bullies, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And my understanding, based on seeing your dogs, you're breeding pockets and standards?
Correct.
Okay. So the reason I'm challenging you on that is because, you know, I breed XLs, and it's to no one's surprise that at some point breeders got all antsy and wanted to get dogs big. So what did they do? Started breeding Mastiffs and everything else under the sun that they could. Right. Well, here's what happens. The basis of our breed supposedly is Pit and Staffordshire Terrier. That's where it all started. Right. We all know there was an infusion of Bulldog thereafter that can be very easily seen in pockets and standards.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And then what ends up happening is you water it down even more whenever you go to XLs. And now, you know, you got some XLs that are running around and they look more like a Mastiff with an ear crop than they do bullies, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, let's just be real with it, right? So I have said here on this platform in the past that I feel, and again, I was referring solely to XLs, that the borderline of high and low, or lower and higher, is 27. And I know that's 7 points higher than what you're talking about, but I'm taking into consideration the fact that they brought in so many more of these larger size dogs. I could definitely understand why you're saying 10 to 20 at the more standard or pocket size, because the Mastiff side of it is pretty much pulled out. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, with the genetic variation, more so what you're dealing with probably on the XL side, and still needing to fix those particular traits and make them more consistent, you probably do need to go a little bit higher for a while.
Yep. That's what I found, because
but I understand the health of the dogs that you're dealing with, of course, and if there are any issues, and have them being tested and that kind of thing, right? But,
no, most definitely. I can tell you right now, Jerry, and for those of you watching us, by all means, if you haven't done so, whoever's watching, make sure to download QBN app, whether it's in the App Store or the Google Play Store. It is absolutely free. You can see all of our dogs there. They all have their genetic test on there. And, you know, we're real big on this. Me personally, even though CRD4 is not one of those things that actually affects our breed, I try by all means never to breed two dogs that are CRD4 carriers together. Why is that? Because even though we know it doesn't affect our breed, I know that we have so much influx of different breeds. I don't want to be the first breeder out here that said, hey, guess what? I made it happen. CRD4 is actually affecting a litter of mine. You know, I always try and take all those precautions. But with that being said, I find that Mastiff traits can be just as pesky at the XL level, if not more, than the actual Pitty traits. Bulldog traits, even though they're stronger at the standard and pocket level, they really get diluted at the XL level. And this is why inbreeding, okay, can be used as a tool at the XL level in order to bring in, you know, more of that bullier or bulldog traits and get away from the Mastiff and Pitty traits that are there. Real quick, after I made that point, Brahman Bull Bullies has a question for you, Jerry. He says, what COI number do you think you can hit before you run into problems, Jerry? So I'm gonna let you answer that directly.
Man, that's a loaded question, isn't it? What? Well,
let me just
throw this out.
Let me just warn you This is a very intelligent crowd you got here before you, because we've been hitting genetics now for 3 years, man. Go ahead.
I know. I've watched you before. I know you guys talk about it. Look, I try to err on the side of science. Your average everyday mutt that's running around out on the street has an inbreeding coefficient less than 5, and your average purebred dog has an average inbreeding coefficient of 25. Anytime you start going up on that number, and that's, to me, that's what inbreeding coefficient is. It's a measurement of genetic risk. Okay.
Yes.
The higher the number, all right, the more risk that you assume. Now, let me give you just an example of a study Embark did here recently. They found that for every 10% increase in the inbreeding coefficient will result in an average decrease of 1 puppy per litter.
Yes.
So if you have a dog that's at 10, a female that's at 10, and a female that's at 30, let's say you have, say she has 3 litters, you're going to have an average decrease of 6 puppies over that dog's breeding lifespan versus the one that is at a 10. There just becomes economics, right? And if you want to look at it from a business standpoint.
Now, I know the answer to this, but I want you to be the one that says it, Jerry. What happens over time if you inbreed and you keep increasing that COI? What happens to the size of the dogs, to the litter size, and to everything else in between? I think Mike Green wants to, wait a minute, Mike Green wants to jump in. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike. What were you showing?
I was showing how the dog's strength. You know, you go from a pocket to a micro, man.
All right, Jerry. So talk to me. What happens? What happens if that COI is too high and you keep inbreeding? What's going to happen?
Exactly what Mike said. The dog. So they call it, what they call it is a loss of vigor, right? The dogs get smaller, litter sizes get smaller. Females have more difficulty getting pregnant.
Yes.
It's just, you know, the term they use is a loss of vigor. And that's what happens when you bring, you know, when you finally do go outside and you do that outcross and it brings in all that new genetic material, they call that increased vigor, right? Increased hybrid vigor.
Yeah.
And so the more you inbreed, the more you bring in the recessive traits, the smaller the dog gets. You have big issues with dwarfism over time. It's just, I did an inbreeding analysis here a while back, and I was going through the pedigree, and there was literally, and keep in mind, this is on paper, and you know as well as I know, paper, we're looking at names. When we do Embark, we get the actual inherited genetics, right? And we actually, so they're going to be different, right? On paper, this dog had an 80% inbreeding coefficient.
80. I've never seen that, man. I've seen 44 on a bulldog, and we know English bulldogs are heavily inbred. I've never seen 80.
I see 50, and this is why I started this a little over 2 years ago, because now understand I was still relatively new, but I kept seeing dogs in certain parts of our community being inbred fairly heavily, right? And then So I started doing this. Really, I started doing this for my own dogs because of my previous experience. And so I was just doing it for me, and then I started seeing what I still see, and it kind of gave me a concern. So I started to speak out about it. And but I see them in 40 to 60% all the time.
With this breed, well, it must be down. It must be down to the pockets and standards. Like I said, you have more of a concentration. You have a smaller gene pool.
I've only done 4XLs, so everything else has been pockets.
Everything else been pockets. Okay, so yeah, it's got to be down there. Real quick, guys. Real quick. I have a quick commercial, guys. I need you to watch this before Jerry and I, along with Mike Green and Donald Gaines, we're going to start answering questions. You are watching. All right, Jerry, you got Coach Karen. She's got a question for you. Jerry, how about production quantity over quality? I can see what he's saying, but you can dilute the quality. Stud is great, but where's the limit? How can you answer that? Do you feel that the quality gets diluted over time if you're inbreeding?
Oh, you mean as as the number goes up, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, just, yeah, because the higher the number continues to climb, the more apt they are to be affected by certain recessive traits. So if you remember, I mean, what was it, maybe 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
So many kennels were named Blue this and Blue that, and the blue dogs were popular and everybody was breeding blue dogs. But how many blue dogs do you know that have skin issues, allergy issues?
So many.
Most I've had two, and I love blue dogs, right? But I've had two of them that have had those issues. You know, always seem to have a staph infection on their skin, or, you know, bad allergies during allergy season. And then I have other dogs that aren't affected by it whatsoever.
Yes, this could go several ways. Definitely, if you're inbreeding a line that, you know, it's got skin allergies, known for having skin allergies, you're just going to run into a world of hurt. We have a question here, and I'm gonna let Gaines Bully answer this, man, and then you and I could jump in, Jerry. It says Pinnacle Bully Kennels LLC says, I have two female litter mates. One female has a COI of 24. The other female has a COI of 36. Is this normal to have two siblings with different COIs? Thanks in advance. Mike, what you got? Donald?
I say they all different, man. It just depends on what they pick up in the breeding.
Yeah, Mother Nature.
Mother Nature, yeah. So if you test your dogs, you can have some 10, 20, 25 in that same litter.
Yeah, Mother Nature dealt the cards, didn't deal two hands the same.
And I think it's normal.
Yes.
Okay. Jerry, what do you think about that? You have one pup in the litter with the COI of 24 and the other one with a COI of 36. And what can you tell me of each?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely going to, I mean, and that's the difference too between doing a COI analysis on paper and then having a genetic COI done, right? Yeah, you can have 7, 8 puppies in a litter and you test every one of them, and they're most likely all going to be different. When they line up the string of the genome there and they start comparing genes to calculate what the inbreeding coefficient is, it's those traits that get inherited, right? And the recombinant process, when everything comes together, some things get inherited, some things don't. That's why you can have a litter, right? And it could be they could all look identical, right? But they may have different temperaments, they may have different behaviors. Those are inherited, right? And so they're, even when they may still look the same, but they're still different. That's why you know, your mom and dad have 4 kids, and you know, like mine, you know, I was the ugly
one. We're all laughing because we're the ugly one.
It's important to understand that what we're trying to do is we're trying to minimize the randomness of Mother Nature by trying to have a better calculated guess, right? That's all we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, it's still pretty random.
It is. Recombination, guys. You know, we could be here a whole show talking about recombination and how the X will pull from the other X and what it brings and whatnot. I will tell you, based on me embarking all of our litters, we embark All of our pups, whether you're Merle or not, we don't care. We're embarking everything. And we have been keeping records. And I've been doing this not just because it's the right or ethical thing to do, but also because I'm able to study what it is that is happening. So, for example, she's asking, having a pup at 24 and another one at 36. I could tell you that the pup at 30, first of all, if you have a litter and you're having a pup at 24 and another one at 36, it tells me you're at the very least, you're line breeding. At the very least, you're line breeding, because if you were outcrossing, those numbers are going to be way lower than that. Okay. In addition to that, I will tell you that that pup that got 36, yeah, a lot of the stars aligned on both sides of the ped when they were pulling one gene from one side and the other. Remember, we were talking about homozygotic pairs. So more likely than not, if I had 10 puppies and say I had one that had 36 off of that, out of that line breeding, I would keep my eye on that pup if I was looking to maximize the traits of that particular litter. Okay. Now, with that being said, what Jerry's saying is absolutely true. In recombination, you don't know what's gonna recombinate. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times you'll hear old-time breeders say, whenever you inbreed, you actually pull back from a previous generation. In reality, that's not what's happening. What's happening is that, you know, the previous generation, once they had pups, right, a lot of those homozygotic pairs became heterozygotic. And now that you did inbreed, say mom to son or grandfather to granddaughter, which is a line breeding, now those heterozygotic pairs, now some of them became homozygotic again, and now gives you the look of the grandfather. And you're thinking, okay, you pulled back a generation. In reality, you didn't. All you did was you recombined, and now you have homozygotic pairs where you had heterozygotic pairs before. All right. So that's another thing I want to say is, if I had a litter where 36, say, is the max and 24 was the lowest, that's one of the most realistic settings you can have. So in other words, you're going to have other pups that are going to be 26s, even 22s, 30, 27, 28. What I haven't seen, and Jerry, you can correct me if you've seen something different, I've never seen a pup that came out 36 in a litter, and then you have another pup in the litter with a COI that's down at 12 or 10. I have never seen that. Typically, when you do a line breeding, there is a range. You will have an outlier, whether it's on the higher amount or even an outlier on the lower amount, but it's not going to be something too exaggerative. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
It's usually not that exaggerated.
Right.
You talking genetics. We had bred one of our studs to two littermate sisters and got total different pups.
Okay. Talk to me, first of all, how big was the litter size?
Big on both of them. I think 8 and 12.
8 and 12 or 8 and 11.
Yeah.
Okay. And none of the pups looked like any of the other ones?
They were different sizes. Different
sizes. Okay. So
yeah, between the two sisters, you had different size pups.
Okay. So Jerry, let me ask you this before I jump in on topic. I'm pretty sure you do. You know about the IGF-1, correct? I take it that you embark. Okay.
Yeah.
So the IGF-1 is pretty much the mammalian growth hormone. Okay. Mm-hmm. You can only have one of two things. You're either going to have a letter N for big or a letter I for intermediate or small. Okay. For example, when I breed XLs, the bigger XLs, normally they're walking around with double N, right? Big. So they pulled an N from mom and an N from dad, and it's big. This is how you're getting these big muscled, big old dogs, right? what ends up happening a lot of times, and I know you guys, Gaines, you breed pockets. What can happen is you may have a double I, male or female. Double I means intermediate, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can happen is you breed two pockets that are double I, and they can produce a standard that is double I.
Mm.
So double I doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot produce bigger. What I have found, okay, and this is where, breeder knowledge and breeder research comes in, is that when you have a double I male that does not have, and we're about to hit on something that's going to blow people's brains out, that does not have low ALT. Okay, low ALT. ALT is liver enzymes. I have found that the dogs that have low ALT, XLs, standards, classics, and pockets are more muscular than those dogs that don't have low ALT. So you're probably wondering, okay, how does this affect the dog? In reality, low liver enzymes does not affect the dog's life or quality of life. Okay. Low liver enzymes, more than anything, is for the vet to know. So if they're giving your dog any medication and the dog's liver enzymes are average, for that dog, average actually means high. Okay. But what I have found is that low ALT is actually, it actually gives you more bulked up, more muscled up dogs. Do you guys want to speak on low ALT? Either one of you?
I just had when I talked about it, like for instance with my vet, they just wanted. It was just one of those things where, like you say, that's my dog. That's my dog's normal. It may be lower than the norm, but that's my dog's normal. So then, like you say, if they take medication that may affect that, then they'll be able to tell. So you should notify your vet, but know that it's not anything to be really nothing to be concerned about. It's just that's your dog's normal.
Correct. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I have seen double I standards or classics breed to XL, and they lose a lot of that oomph, even when they have a higher COI. Why is that? I'm going to tell you why that is. First and foremost, when you're grabbing a pocket or a standard, you're dealing with a gene pool that has more bulldog in it. When you come to XL side of the house, whether we like it or not, and some people in the higher ups may not want to admit it, but you have a mix of so many other breeds that a lot of these homozygotic pairs, because of these other breeds, are going to now become heterozygotic. And when they become heterozygotic, you start losing the bulliness. Let me give you an example. A perfect recessive gene. The crest that we all look for on the American Bully, that's a recessive trait. Both dogs got to have it. One could be a carrier and the other one can full-blown have it, but they both got to have it one way or another. Worst case scenario is you grab a dog with a crested head and you take him to your female that has a tiny little head because you think he's going to fix the problem. And now you realize you have 10 puppies running around with a small head and no crest. What happened? What happened? You just ran into a recessive gene, and for it to express, it's got to be homozygotic. But mom doesn't have the big head gene. So mom is about to ruin everything for you. Yeah, your puppies are going to be carriers, meaning you may breed them again, either to dad or to another dog that has that crest. And then you're only looking at 50% of the litter that's going to have the full crest. But in that one generation, you're not going to fix it. This is why so many people ask me at times, hey, Raul, small heads, how many generations does it take? Well, in reality, first generation, forget about fixing it in one generation. Second generation, you're going to semi-fix it. It's really going to take you 3 generations to get it fixed. This is why, as a breeder, you got to think in your head, okay, so the female, just let's round it to 2 years just so the math is easy, okay? If the female has to be 2 before we breed her, and we know you could breed her at 20 months, but let's just say 2 just to make the math easy. 3 generations, you're looking at 6 years. Are you willing to work 6 years in clearing one particular trait? This is why the minute I see a dog that has a kink tail, has ataxia, has a small head, for me is an immediate deal breaker. If I can't fix you in 1 generation, I don't want to deal with it. It's not worth it for me. What do you guys got on this?
No, same thing exactly, man. Especially when your beard turns the color of mine and Jerry's, you know, you start doing some math before you get that big head. So I think it would
6
be
years
wise
is a long
to not
time.
embark on many 12-year journeys.
Absolutely, Jerry. You have Sid 1026 asking you a direct question. Jerry, do you feel in order for XLs to get the bullied traits to be consistent, they must breed, I guess, to extreme pockets?
No, I don't think that's the approach to go at all. If I got an XL and I was looking for him to get more bullied traits, I'd be looking for larger standard dogs that have those traits that you're looking for. I would not go down to pocket. I don't like the size disparity. I don't like the just the general mass disparity.
Correct.
If we're talking about that gene and IG, I can't. My memory.
IGF-1. Yeah,
IGF-1. I can't. You know, the interesting thing about that is even it is not perfect, because I can tell you that the predictive size for my boy Buster and predictive size for Tug, Donald, Mike's guy, you know, were around 65 pounds or so, and they missed that by about 30 pounds.
Yeah, they're usually off about 25 pounds. You're absolutely right about that. Yeah, you're right about that. We have another question for you, Jerry, from American Bullies. When you say it shrinks size, and he's talking about inbreeding, when you say it shrinks size, are you meaning height or overall size?
Both. It's both.
Correct. Yep. Correct. I agree with you 100% with that one, man. 100%. Let's see here. I'm trying to go through questions here, guys. So now's the time to hit it. Pinnacle's saying, thank you for clarification, gentlemen. All my pups are embark tested. Excellent. Michael Higginson is asking, is there a way to tell that traits will push through without trial and error? Wow. The $1 million question. What do you got, Jerry?
There's just no way to tell whether they will or whether they won't. That's the beauty and the frustration of Mother Nature, right? There's both sides. I had a horse, black stallion. Now, he would throw black if bred to horses with I think bay and anything that was a base black, right?
Right.
Chestnut or that kind of thing, but won't always throw black. There's the other side of the equation, right? And so, yeah, it would be nice if we had like we do for color. I mean, even with your color and dealing with your merles and stuff, right? You can have that information on both the male and the female, but you still don't know exactly what you're going to get.
This is absolutely right. That's where the pundit square comes in. And even the pundit square is not 100% accurate. It simply gives you a mathematical explanation.
Percentage.
Yeah, right. That's all. You're always going to go above or below it. It's never 100% accurate. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. There is no 100%. This is what you're going to get. Now, with that being said, you can improve your odds. That's what we do as breeders, right? You know, if I am, for example, let me give you an example, guys, because I know there's been a lot of talk. Oh my God, Raul's now going to breed. He's going to breed pockets. Not necessarily so. Not necessarily so. If I produce pockets, great. But I'm really looking at producing standards, because, like Jerry said, if you want to bullify or you want to make the XL more bully or have bullier traits, you want the disparity in size and height to be as minimal as possible in order to bring it up, right? And so that's the reason why I am heading in this direction, is because I want to be able to produce standards in my yard that are going to give me the XLs with the traits that I'm looking for, right? If I was, say, to breed a pocket to a full-blown 24-inch male running around, you know, the odds of you getting it right really diminish. And that's because it's a very radical approach. You're taking a pocket, right, that doesn't have longer limbs or whatnot, and you now want it to push through on a 24-inch dog. If a dog is walking around with 24-inch at the withers, 25, 26, whether you like it or not, I know I'm going to hurt a lot of feelings, but you got some mastiff up in there, bro. Ain't no dog going to be running around here at 25 inches at withers without having something back there, right? And you think this little pocket is just going to go in there, even though it has a higher COI, and it's going to push right through it. You have another thing coming, because you're dealing now, on top of everything else, you're now dealing with another variable, which is an extended height difference. So those limbs, right, whenever you have recombination, they're trying to figure out if they're going to be heterozygotic, homozygotic, or we're going to have long front legs and short back legs, or we're going to have long back legs and short front legs. Then you have a dog that looks like a funny car running around, right? So in order to minimize that, how do you stack the odds? Well, let's say I get a large standard, and I breed them into a small XL female. Let's say my large standard is 19.5 inches at withers, and he goes into a female that's 20.5 inches at withers. Do you think I'm going to have better odds at getting what I'm looking for than if I was getting a 25-inch at wither male going into a female that's 14-inch at withers? You see the dichotomy, you see the difference between the two. So yeah, you can definitely stack the odds in your favor. Another thing I want to tell you guys is low ALT. A lot of people have been writing to me about it. They've been freaking out about it. To me personally, low ALT is your friend. It means more muscle. That's what I've seen. If anybody else can tell me otherwise, please, by all means, drop a comment. Blocks Bully says, can we talk about MCTs and how they affect the American Bully? Do you know what the MCT is, guys?
Mast cell tumor.
Yes, that mast cell tumor, which is a marker that Embark is now testing for. I contacted Embark because I saw this marker as well as the copper toxicity marker, and they don't know if it affects our breed. In fact, they have a leaning that it's quite possible it's like CRD4, that the marker's there, but it really doesn't affect our breed, especially with XLs. Because think about it. When you have a long polychain of genetics in the XL world, first you chop it because you have pitties, right? Terriers. Then you chop it because you have bulldog, and then you chop it a third time because you have mastiffs. And then the possibility of that entire code coming through and showing itself, it becomes that much more difficult. Anything you got on MCT, Jerry?
Oh, no, not on MCT. I just wanted to wanted to throw something else out there.
Go ahead, throw it, man.
So I wanted to throw something out to you, Ro, maybe as a chance to help the community at large. But do you personally see the advantage of incorporating a scatterbred dog into your breeding program?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Will you explain why?
Yes, in many ways. First of all, health-wise, it's going to lower the overall COI in your program. like we said earlier, we alluded to, the higher the COI, the more pathologies are going to pop up, because recessive genes all of a sudden are going to start getting their perfect twin, and they're going to be expressing themselves. When you bring a scatterbred dog, it's going to give you more heterozygotic pairs. Therefore, pathologies or diseases or illnesses are not going to be able to show themselves. That's number one. Number two, number two, and I've spoken here at large on this. A high COI, if you know what you're talking about, if you've researched this, you know that a high COI is as good or as bad as low COI when it comes to your breeding program. So in other words, there's no such thing as bad high COI or low COI. It's however you manage it. So let me give you an example. Let's say I have a scatterbred female with a COI of 6. Now, I know there's people watching us right now that are saying, man, if I had a female with a COI of 6, I'm going to get rid of her. Not me. That is gold. What you got in your hands is the exact opposite of a heavily inbred dog. A heavily inbred dog, let's say he or she's walking around with a 36 COI. More likely than not, they got something else going on too, because we're already increasing in that. What ends up happening is you grab that dog that's got a 36 COI and you throw it into this dog that has a COI of 6. She becomes the recipient of this dog, and she's going to give those puppies what we spoke about earlier, which is called hybrid vigor. Right. You're going to get the very best combinations. That flower that was so tight at 36 is actually going to blossom when it hits that COI of 6. That's why I keep telling people, you don't want a yard full of dogs that have a COI 30 plus. You're going to bottleneck yourself. You're going to produce sick dogs. The size of your dogs are going to become smaller. The litter sizes are going to become smaller. Diseases that you never even thought of are going to be popping up. Okay. This is why balance. Okay. Balance is so important. Don't get me wrong. If you inbreed and you have a pup that has a COI of 36, going into it, you knew that this could be a possibility. But if you are in that position, a dog that has a low COI in the single digits becomes golden for you as far as that particular dog. Any insights you guys got on this?
No.
Go ahead, guys.
Anything else?
Yeah. What we see there is we've always erred on the side of dogs being vigorous, and we don't really have a need to. I told you the first time you came to our yard, Raul, what we learn and know about our dogs is I had a female that let the stud shine through, and that was without me knowing the numbers. That was me actually looking at the pups and saying, man, she's had a lot of pups that look like whoever we breed her to, way more so than they look like her. So I'd have to agree with what you said, that always maintaining that balance is going to be the best.
Yes, by all means. I'm going to tell you guys this, whoever's watching this, and I'm saying this wholeheartedly, because a lot of times people get caught up in the COI conversation and they have a pup with low COI and they feel horrible about it. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have a female that has a low COI, 12, 10, 9, single digits, okay, and you take a look at the landscape and you find a male you like, and they embark that male, and that male's COI is 36. What you may not know is that if you grab that dog, no matter how good that dog is, the likelihood of you outproducing that dog or that dog outproducing itself with your female actually skyrockets, guys. That's where actually having low COI actually is a wonderful thing. And then not only that, if that male that has a COI of 36 is walking around with some sort of pathology, disease process, whatever, more likely than not, those puppies are now going to become carriers of that disease, but they're not going to full blown be walking around with it. So in reality, it's a double whammy. It's a twofer. It's a two-way that you're winning. Health first and foremost, Second of all, hybrid vigor. Jerry, we have another question for you, but before we do, man, let's let everybody know what this show is.
Commercial.
Now, Jerry, we had a question for you, but before I drop the question on you from Coach Karen, real quick, guys, I got to say, what's up to Shannon Dolly's Dachshunds? Thank you for becoming a member. You know we're here at 8 p.m. every single Monday. Nothing but love. Now, Coach Karen, she was asking a question, and I just lost it here, man. I got nobody else to blame but myself. But what she was asking, Jerry, to you, if I could find this question fast enough, she was saying that blue color animals are not necessarily something that is what people want, or here you go. Thank you, Kyle. Jerry, since we know blue is a no, any mammal, what is preference on your undertones for good match? Nothing is perfect, but what is yours?
Well, first of all, blue is just a dilute gene on black. I don't say blue is a no. You just have certain strains that have allergy issues. I have a couple of blue tries. I don't have any perfect colors, to be honest. I don't give color too much thought when it comes to breeding. I'm looking at other things. I have some dogs that are smut, so black, and then they carry a dilution with a mask and that kind of thing. But I would stay away from dilute to dilute. Like for instance, if I wanted, if I had a blue dog and I wanted to to darken up the blues, let's say for instance, I'd take that dog back to a black, right? But I would stay away from really going dilute to dilute. That would really be my only big thing in messing with color.
Is that because you're trying to stay away from white? And we all know that white brings its own particular issues. Is that why you stay away from dilute?
Well, that, and I just don't think it's a good idea to go double dilute on anything, really.
Okay.
That's just a my thing, right? But color-wise,
I mean, that's fair. If you don't want to go double dilute, I was just thinking if you dilute it too much and it becomes white, then you have melanin issues with the eyes and the ears, and then you're dealing with a whole different set of issues.
Yeah. Prior to the question about color, one of the things I want to throw in there when you were talking about high and low, right?
Yeah.
So on the inbreeding coefficient, we just did a breeding with a dog. And this is on paper. The sire's inbreeding coefficient was 29, and my female was just below 6. Okay. And then on paper, the inbreeding coefficient of the puppies was just a hair below 10, right?
Okay.
So what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring the strong genetics of that male and pass it through to my female, but then have a litter of puppies whose inbreeding coefficients still weren't too high, that I could still reasonably work with on the other side. And
with that scenario that you're bringing up, I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do, but I'm just saying, if you really, really wanted to bring his traits in, I would strongly consider looking at his dad and doing a line breeding, grandfather to granddaughter. And it all else in that particular scenario, you could actually go inbreeding. If you got a female that say she's at a 9, Dad is at what, at 27? If you inbreed her, you're probably going to get her somewhere between 27 and 34, somewhere in that range is a possibility. But there is your decision that you're wanting to bring his traits no matter what. What ended up happening, folks, is he had a male that had the male that he's getting trying to get the traits from. He's running a 27, and your female was running a what, Jerry?
He was 29, and the female was just below 6.
She's just below 6. So pretty much that female won out, meaning that a lot of his homozygotic pairs, this happened to them. And so the switch was turned off, and a lot of the traits that he was pushing forward, right? But as the carrier, if you were to inbreed that daughter back to dad or even to the granddad, you're going to get a lot more of these, and that's where the trait is going to show. So, it could be played both ways, guys. So a dog with a high COI and a dog with a low COI, believe it or not, they're both stronger than whatever's in the middle, and they're going to dominate. In this particular scenario, his female dominated. I got Kyle stopping me. What you got, bro?
Jerry, I wanted to hear the rest of what he was saying. What was your result on that breeding? He didn't get to finish what he was going to say. I wanted to hear what Jerry was going to say on that.
Yeah, well, they're not quite 6 weeks old yet, but really what I wanted to accomplish in doing this breeding, right, was, and I'll just come out and straightforward and say it. I did the breeding because I wanted one great puppy, one great dog from the litter, and got more than that, but I really wanted to get the characteristics of the male that I was breeding to, with an improvement of rear angulation, rear assembly that male carried. Right now, it looks like that while not all puppies inherited those things, it looks like 3 or 4 definitely did. And I also brought down the inbreeding coefficient, which fit 29 does not fit me. Okay.
Right.
That's just what I'm comfortable with. So I brought it down to around 10, and I'm happier with that.
Okay. So you ended up actually being content with the result you got because you brought the COI down. And you said that the rear angulation is basically where you were focusing on, mainly bringing that trait from the male. And you said about half the litter got them. Is that correct?
Looks like so far. I mean, when they're 6 weeks old, it's still pretty tough to tell. But
how many pups in the litter again?
7.
7. You see, this is what I tell people all the time. And that
she had 8 her first time.
Okay. That's what I tell people all the time. I feel that breeding numbers or percentages become more accurate the more pups you got, right? So my question to you, Jerry, is had you had 10 pups compared to the 7 you currently have, do you feel the odds would have been better in you getting what you wanted?
Well, I mean, just from a statistical standpoint, the answer obviously is yes.
Yeah. So no, it's essential because I could tell you I've had scenarios where I've had 6 pups in a litter, and mind you, I don't like having too large litters. I'm good with 8, 7 or 8 pups. I'm a happy camper. Mom could do everything. You don't have to be there, pretty much doing nothing. But with that being said, I have found that when you have 8 or 10 pups, this is what happens, guys. What I find is on any particular litter, you're going to have twins, right? So let's say a litter of 10 puppies, right? You're going to have possibly 2 or 3 sets of twins. And what I mean by that is you're going to see 2 puppies that are different color than everyone else, or their colors match up, and also their body structure. For some reason, these things happen to line up amongst themselves. What ends up happening is the outliers are usually the non-twin pairs, as crazy as this may sound. So what am I getting at? Let me give you an example. I just bought 2 puppies from Gaines Bullies, right? The 2 pups I got are the only 2 blue puppies out of that litter. Okay. They happen to have what I wanted, so no issues. But if, say, Mike and Donald were looking for a specific trait, what ends up happening is whenever you have these set pairs, it actually reduces the possibilities of you getting what you want. So say you have 10 puppies and you have 3 sets of twins and you're looking for the rear angulation that Jerry's looking for. And 2 sets of those twins actually have the rear angulation that his female has and not the male that he's trying to draw the traits from. In reality, guys, out of that 10 pup litter, you're really dealing with 6 pups. You see how that works? Because now you have 2 sets of twins that are looking more like mom. That's not the trait you're looking for. So they're immediately eliminated. Now you're really dealing with 6 pups. 6 pups, in order for you to get exactly what you want, becomes terribly difficult. Have you guys dealt with that, with exactly what I'm talking about seeing twins within a litter?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We
get them all the time.
Putting little matches up. Yeah, I think these 2 are twins. You know,
we
these
get them
2
all.
pairs are twins.
Yeah, because one of the things that we haven't hit on is that, and again, I've been in touch with Embark, also UC Davis. I mean, this is something that I'm very passionate about, and because dogs have almost double the amount of chromosomes we have. Whenever you have a litter, say, of 10 pups, we have a tendency to think of those puppies as brother and sisters, and they are for all intents and purposes, right? But genetically, and we just saw somebody comment about they had 1 puppy with a COI of 36 and another one with a COI of 24. The genetic diversity in the recombination can equate to human cousins rather than human brothers and sisters for the majority of that litter. Where you have an exception in there is in these twin pairs that I'm talking about. You're going to see pups that are normally they're going to look the same in color and the same in structure. Those are the ones that are more like a human brother and sister, whereas the other puppies in the litter compared to those are more like cousins as far as relation to them. Do you guys agree with that?
I think I'd have to agree with you, you know, but that's a big learning point for me to look at it that way. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. How about you, Jerry? You got anything on that?
I have nothing to add that you didn't already add.
Okay, good deal. Let's jump in here to the questions, man. We got Miss Shannon Dolly's Dachshund, our new member. She says, this platform has taught me more than I could get on my own in 22 years I've been into dogs. Not my breed, but I respect what you guys are doing. The AKC community is not this helpful unless mentored. Shannon, nothing but love for you. Thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity, guys, for everybody that's watching. Today makes the 1-year anniversary of the QBN yearly reunion. And what I mean by that is we run a raffle here on the channel, and we go ahead and bring people all the way down to the queue, and we visit and we have a ball. This year, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball. If you go down to our community tab, I put there, do you want a fishing trip, 18-hole golf course, or anything else? Please go in there, click on what you guys want me to do. I'm actually planning on bringing Gaines, Mike Green and Donald Gaines, and possibly, I'm not sure yet, possibly Mr. Jerry over here or Mr. Dean over there. somebody else we're going to bring down here, and we're going to have a big old party, whether we go out fishing or we go driving on a 18-hole golf course or whatever else. In order for you guys to qualify, you must be a member of the channel. Okay. And what we're going to do, not on this live, but on the following live, I'm actually going to go ahead and run the raffle. And if you've already been a member for as little as $5 a month, you could go down the description and you could become a member. If we choose you, we're going to pay for you to come on down. Okay. So you don't even have to worry about your airplane ticket and none of that stuff. We're going to fly you in here and we're going to take you out fishing. All right. And we're going to make teams. And then we're going to see who wins. And then the loser, the team that loses has to do the hot sauce challenge. Trust me, if you haven't seen the hot sauce challenge video, you want to check it out. Let's get back on topic, guys. Let's jump into questions here. Shawneen Hudson Kuklish says, my boy has a koi of 19 and is tri-merle. My girl has a koi of 37. Her father's my boy's grandfather. If I breed them, am I looking at problems? Jerry, I'm going to let you go ahead and jump on that one.
Well, let's just say based on the percentages, you have an increased risk. I mean, I don't know if you'll have problems, but there's definitely you definitely increase your potential of that. Yeah. Again, we're all, anytime we're talking about this stuff, we're just looking at risk profile, right? Every breeder has their risk tolerance, right?
Correct.
And what they want to do, and would never think about telling somebody how to breed. But if I'm doing a breeding and all I want, if I have a strategy that I want one particular dog from that litter to accomplish something, then I may be willing to take more risk than I might have otherwise. It just depends, but I don't like it.
What I always say is when you're dealing with genetics, you're dealing with probability. 2 and 2 probably equals 4, but in genetics, it doesn't always equal 4, right? It's just highly likely, but not always. We got A-Rod 25. How did bullies get to what we now call pocket or micro? They have French bulldog traits, but I doubt they actually mixing them with bulldog. Or am I wrong? Do you guys want to allude to that? That's way out of my range of expertise, if you will.
Give it a shot, Jerry.
Hey, well, for us, we did a breeding with King's Juggernaut, and he's 15 and a half inches, and Betty's 15 and a half inches. They produced a dog that's 12 and a half inches, so that's a micro right there that hadn't been mixed in with the French bulldog and other bulldogs. But she's to me, I mean, if you look down the line, it's all American Bully in there. No little dogs like that.
Okay, fair enough. We have a question here from George Barron. He says, how do we add mass and size to the classic bully? I'm trying to add size to my next breeding. Do you guys want to help him out?
Breed to a bigger dog with a strong inbreeding coefficient.
Strong COI, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so breed to a bigger dog with a higher COI, you would think.
Does he have a male or a female?
Doesn't say.
It wouldn't matter, really.
It wouldn't matter. Okay.
Doesn't say. Yeah. I will say this: if your dog, male or female, if they have a lower koi, you're sitting pretty. You're sitting pretty for what I said earlier. Yeah. Find yourself a dog that's got a high koi, breed to it, and you're going to fix your issue pretty quick. Now, if your dog has a high koi, now you got to find a dog that's got a low koi in order to break that up and then breed to a dog with a higher koi that could possibly bring you in that mass. So
I have a dog. I could recommend has a very low inbreeding coefficient, throws size, and he's big. So if they need some help,
well, throw it out there, man. Let them know.
Golly, trying to think of his name.
He put him on the spot.
The dog's name is Kodiak.
Kodiak. Okay.
Kodiak Bear, I think.
Yeah, that's a big dog.
Kodiak, yeah, he's a big.
Yeah,
big
you guys
dog.
know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
A lot of old blood, that not bred real tightly, but throws good size and has a low inbreeding coefficient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He is just saying it's a male with a COI of 9, which is perfect. That's perfect. You want a female with a higher COI.
Yep.
And the way you get that is, you find pedigree where the dog has been line bred or inbred. Ask for the embark. If you got a COI of 9, if you could triple the COI to 27, you're sitting pretty. The likelihood is that more likely than not, you're going to get that size you're trying to get. Does that mean that every single puppy in the litter is going to be huge? No. It means that more likely than not, 60% of that litter, right, is going to be bigger than what you currently have. That's what that means.
Understand, George, that's going to be a multi-generational process.
Correct. That's not something you're going to be able to fix right away, man. Let's see. Freddie Stevie saying hot sauce on the fresh caught fish. You got it, man. You got it. You need to ask Michael Higginson and Trayvon Mobley and all them guys that came last year, how well we took care of them when they did come and everything else. We got Coach Karen. Okay, she's talking about the hot sauce too. I guess that was definitely triggered quite a few people. We got Brahman Bullies saying George Barron, Led Zeppelin with Moonshine Bullies would be perfect for you. Okay, excellent. I love that in the community, man. That's what this is about, man. Helping everybody out. Genesis Legacy Kennel says, I really appreciate this live in this channel. So many of our upcoming breeders in the community are unknowledgeable about what we have. Do you guys agree that the majority of the people that we come in contact with in this community know nothing about genetics?
Very much so.
I think any subject, you're going to be stronger together every time you diversify. And Mike and I are totally different in a lot of ways, but we're better together. And I love what Jerry brings to the table, and same with you, Raul.
Yeah. No, most definitely, man. And I mean, I couldn't be happier to have you guys on board as well as Jerry, because a lot of times I could sit here and I could see things a particular way. But is our personal experiences, right? Jerry breeds, say, smaller dogs than XLs. You guys breed pockets as well. Therefore, my experience is definitely out of the box than maybe what you guys are used to dealing with, right? We've already spoken about how pockets and standards have more of a bulldog, have more bulldog traits, and in my opinion, have a smaller gene pool than XLs would, right? My goal,
randomness.
Yeah, my perfectly said, less randomness. My goal is to bring XLs up to par to a standard into a pocket. Yeah. Is it going to happen overnight? Hell no. This is why you see me bringing these two pups I got from Gaines, right? A lot of people are like, well, you're breeding pockets. No, those two pups more likely than not are going to be standards. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is what I told you guys earlier. I want as little variance from my smaller XLs to my bigger standards so I can get where I want to get to, right? That's why I would never, say, for example, breed my little pocket Daisy Duke to my boy Macho, for example. He's just too big. It's too many inches of difference. Coach Karen says, I say it all the time, protect and respect y'all for the real deal. Number love, man. Number love. But listen, our time is up. And, I kind of feel, I don't know about you guys, I kind of feel empty. I feel like there's so much more we could speak about as far as genetic was concerned. But obviously, genetics is one of those topics that you could go down rabbit holes and talk about that kind of thing forever. So what I want to have happen at this moment is if you feel that we should talk more genetics and we should bring this gentleman, Jerry James, back up in here so we could break some more stuff down, I need you to go ahead and write it in the comments section and give us a like and give us a share. This way we could bring him back and we could definitely discuss more as far as genetics is concerned. Now, let me bring my guy Hollywood over here and let me
Hollywood.
Hey, you know, we could probably have 4 hours of podcast and still not scratch the surface.
This is so true. We barely scratched the surface on this particular topic. But Jerry, in this show, we all do an outro. So I'm going to let Hollywood go first. Gaines go next. I'm going to let you break it down. I'm going to close it out over here, okay?
I'm going to say it first.
Yeah.
Do me a favor.
Put your hand on mine.
Go close out so we can talk on the other side of this, all right?
Okay.
So, Hollywood, make it happen, bro.
It's your boy Hollywood Holland, your boy in the back at the queue, and we're catching you on the next one.
Gaines.
Hey, that's Mike Green, man. Gaines Bullies, man. You can follow us on Facebook. Mike G or Gaines Bullies on Instagram. Hey, Bully fam, love the interaction. Love y'all here, man. We'll holler at y'all the next one.
All right. Jerry James.
Oh, what the?
Jerry James, Dubtown Bullies. You can follow me on Facebook under Jerry James or Dubtown Bullies. Also on Instagram at Dubtown Bullies. Appreciate you taking the time to tune in.
Hey,
don't leave, Jerry.
Hey, you already know. You already know. This is Roll from the Q, where we make it happen every Monday at 8 p.m. Check it out.
What you heard about